Greetings, friends of the great Second Advent movement, and welcome to the Present Truth Studies YouTube channel. I'm your host, Brother Eric. Today we're going to look at the role of the recent presidential election in prophecy. Of course, as we know, a much anticipated election took place here in the United States, and the winner by a landslide was Donald Trump. A lot of people were expecting trouble up to and maybe right after the election, and really things have been relatively peaceful. It's like this eerie calm, perhaps before a storm. But for us as Seventh-day Adventists, the question is what role will Donald Trump play in future prophetic events? This is foremost on people's mind, and several channels have picked up the topic. And one of the major themes is, how could Donald Trump lead in his administration lead to the Sunday law? That seems to be foremost on Adventists' mind, is worrying about the Sunday law. Well, they're missing some pieces of the puzzle, and we aim to show today clearly that the prophetic timeline, there's some gaps, and there's the root problem of it is a failure to identify where the leader of the United States, the president, fits in Bible prophecy. And you might be shocked that some of the earliest writings in the Adventist pioneers, Ellen White and her husband, pointed to things that have been long forgotten. So we want to revisit that and show why it is that we will never understand how Donald Trump fits in Bible prophecy unless we understand the man 666 and the King of the North. Two topics that are highly controversial within the Adventist Church. We've done prior videos on the teaching of Walter Veith and the King of the North, where he's totally off into the bushes, following the theology, basically, of Lewis Weir. So you can check a link in the description box below for that video. But we're going to look today at some evidence. So come on in. We'll do a presentation here. Here's our thumbnail. Donald Trump in prophecy. Will he bring the Sunday law? That's foremost on the minds of many Seventh-day Adventists. So the election took place. Donald Trump is installed. Now, he isn't officially president until the inauguration, January 20th. So they're several weeks away. And who knows what could happen. He could be assassinated. A lot of things up in the air at this point. But what's the connection with the ominous figure in Bible prophecy of the man 666? This is the point where we really have to look in, because this is where Adventists have gotten off the bush. And we're going to relate that to you here as we go in. So let's start with this question. Now, so this presentation, what is interesting is I put this together a little over 4 years ago on the last presidential election in 2020, which Donald Trump won, but it was really stolen, and so he didn't get into office. But it was looking at the role of Donald Trump and Paula White. And a lot of people don't know about her, and the question is this a spiritualistic connection leading to the mark of the beast? And this is a topic that most people haven't looked into. And I'm going to literally follow the exact script. So bear in mind, this is 4 years old, but in terms of prophecy, nothing changes. But the role of who Donald's spiritual advisors are, or who's around him, his support base, because a lot of his support base is evangelical Christians. And so here are the questions we're going to look at. Who's Paula White? What are the characteristics of the false prophet? And this is the part where a lot of Adventists don't look into this in Revelation 13, the role of the false prophet. So we'll look into that. We actually have a video in the description box below where we looked at this in more detail. We published it about a year ago, so you can check that out as a follow-up to this video. And then, so who's the false prophet in Bible prophecy? Is Donald Trump an antitypical Cyrus or the man 666? Now, back in 2020, a lot of evangelicals saw Donald Trump as this God had chosen agent like Cyrus of old, of the Medo-Persians, to do a great work for God? Perhaps many of them still believe that today. Or is he a candidate for the man 666? So we want to know. We're going to look at evidence for that. Is it possible that Trump will get back into the White House? Now, this is interesting. Here we are 4 years later, and the answer is yes, but there just happened to be a 4-year delay. I don't think anybody predicted that, could have predicted that. But in terms of what the Bible teaches about the role of the United States in prophecy, that stands unshakable. So that's why we want to look at this closer and the identity of the man 666. So, of course, this picture was taken back during Trump's first presidency, and he had a lot of association with religious figureheads, including visits to the Pope and Catholic officials. And here's a picture in his office. He's surrounded by various evangelical Christian leaders. In a day of prayer, they're laying hands on him. So his support with the Christian base is fairly strong, and even so true today. So who were some of those evangelicals behind Trump? That was the curious thing, because we're going to see that they could be candidates for the false prophet. So one of them was Paula White. She's a personal pastor to Donald Trump and a White House faith advisor. Now, that was her role back during his first administration. The question is, will she resume that role again in his second term? That will be one to look into carefully. Also, a man named Jack Graham, pastor of the Prestonwood Baptist Church in Plano, Texas. This is a very influential pastor. He's got a mega church there in Texas. Ralph Reed, chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. I mean, he has a long history. A lot of these people are Christian nationalists. So the idea that some of them might fulfill a role of leading the United States to the image of the beast system is not unrealistic. We don't know who they are, but these are possible candidates. The Reverend Johnny Moore, president of the Congress of Christian Leaders, advisor in the Trump administration. So Trump had some of these people close to him. Gary Bauer, American Values president. Dr. James Dotson, Focus on the Family, very well-known ministry on the radio waves. Jentezan Franklin, Free Chapel senior pastor. Robert Jeffress, senior pastor of the Dallas First Baptist Church. So we had leaders from the black religious community here. Greg Laurie, Harvest Christian Fellowship, senior pastor. I mean, these are some of the biggest. I mean, we're talking churches with 10,000 plus local members, and then worldwide, television and radio ministries. So these are large, influential figures. And then this guy, Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference president. So are these people candidates for the false prophet? I think the ones in red letters are a possibility, but I mean, in the end, we'll know. But we want to look more what the Bible says about the nature of the false prophet. And then, I forgot this guy, Tony Perkins, Family Research Council president. So that was some of the people surrounding Trump back in his first administration. It'll be interesting to see who surrounds him in his faith council in the current administration. That'll be something to pay attention to. So let's look at identifying the false prophet. This is crucial in Revelation 13. And we're going to look at verses 13 and 14. It reads, and he, and this is the false prophet, and you can go identify that in Revelation 19, verse 20. He doeth great wonders, so that he, and I'm identifying in brackets these pronouns because it's very important to follow who's who. So he, being the false prophet, maketh fire to come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. So this is a religious figurehead. Verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of them whose miracles he, the false prophet, had power to do in the sight of the beast. Which beast? The two-horned beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, the leopard-like, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So in Revelation 13, we have two beasts. The first 10 verses are describing a beast with the body of a leopard, head of a lion, 10 horns with crowns on the horns. That's what we call the leopard-like beast, okay? And it's always identified, which had the wound by the sword, which did live. So it had these 10 heads, and one of the heads, or 7 heads, and one of them had a deadly wound, of course, representing the papacy, one of the heads. In contrast, the second beast in Revelation 11 through 18, that is the two-horned beast, as identified in the United States in prophecy. Most Adventists know that. So it's very important to distinguish which beast is associated with what. And this is a careful following of the Scripture. So we're going to see the role of the two-horned beast and the false prophet here shortly. So here's an illustration from the original shepherd's rod. It's a prophetic chart that is extremely detailed. There's nothing else like this in the world, but it shows the world history and prophetic symbols, and it combines the visions in Daniel 7 and Revelation. So you have, starting back in ancient Babylon, the lion with a pair of wings, then the bear representing Medo-Persian Empire with 3 ribs in its mouth. Then we get to the leopard with 4 heads and 2 pairs of wings representing the Grecian Empire. We turn the corner at the time of Christ in the cross, and then we get into the nondescript beast in Daniel 7 that's fierce, and then it's in 2 phases, okay? The pagan Rome and then ecclesiastical Rome. And out of ecclesiastical Rome raises up that notorious horn head that speaks great things against God. And then the first beast of Revelation 13, the leopard-like beast, and after that, there's the two-horned beast I got circled in red, the United States in prophecy, and this forms an image to the beast, pointing back to the period of papal Rome, and the little horned head that speaks great things against God, thinks to change times and laws, including the Sabbath, from Sabbath to Sunday. So this is a church-state confederacy in the Dark Ages. So the United States is going to replicate that, form an image or make an image to the beast. And of course, there's the horned head that thinks to change times and laws. And then as we move forward, so we're right there in the period of that leopard-like beast and the two-horned beast, but as we move forward in time, on the timeline, we're going to get into a church confederation and then ultimately a church-state confederacy in Revelation 17. We're going to see that in more detail. Now, here's another chart that blows up end-time events in much more detail, and there's nothing else like this in terms of the detail. And it starts in 1929, but it brings you, when the shepherd's rod came, but it brings you up to Ezekiel 9, the purification church. And after that, then we'll have the loud cry period. And it's during this period that you have the churches confederating together, the apostate Protestant churches, and then you see the beast and the false prophet determined to deceive the world by miracles by the false prophet, and then laws coming from the civil authority of the government of the two-horned beast. And this is Revelation 13, verses 14, 15. So this is when they're going to do their miracle-working power. So it's a religious figurehead joined with the power of the civil government of the United States. And they will lead. And how do we know that the false prophet cannot be the devil or the papacy? Well, one is, when and how is the false prophet and two-horned beast destroyed? And if you go to Revelation 19, verse 20, okay, it said the beast and the false prophet are cast alive in the lake of fire during the 7 last plagues. In contrast, the papacy is destroyed at the brightness of his coming, which is later in time. So this proves that the false prophet cannot be the papacy, okay? And it can't be the devil himself, because Satan himself is cast to the earth in prison for 1,000 years, and then ultimately After the millennium, he's destroyed permanently, once and all, for the lake of fire. So this covers a gigantic sweep of time. There's a lot of information here. We're just highlighting a couple points. And if anybody's interested in this chart and the description of all these events, then please contact us and we'll send you the supporting track literature. This stuff, which explains it in more detail. And we'll at the end of the video, we'll get into that in more detail. So who's a false prophet? Now, Shepherd's Rod Volume 2 goes into quite a bit of detail. We're going to quote some of it here. Page 157, it says, as previously explained, the false prophet is not the papacy or the two-horned beast. Neither is he the devil, for we read, and the devil that deceived them was cast in a lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. This is Revelation 20, verse 10. So the beast and the false prophet were already in the lake of fire before the devil got thrown in. So the false prophet cannot be the devil. Therefore, the false prophet is the one who shall precede the manifestation of Satan himself. We know Satan's going to impersonate Christ's second coming. So the false prophet comes before that. And said the apostle, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 14. So this is properly identifying these various figures in last time events. This is crucial. And then we continue on, page 157, paragraph 2. The false prophet will be known by false doctrines. So as the doctrines held by the false prophet cannot be fully supported by the scriptures, miracles are performed to secure the confidence of the people. As the great men and religious leaders declare to the public that the so-called true religion is the truth of Christ, and that the false prophet is a servant, multitudes will fall into Satan's snare. His false prediction of the coming of the Lord will be fulfilled by Satan himself as he appears as an angel of light. So this is all taking place during the loud cry. The 144,000 are sealed. They're preaching the loud cry. They're calling people out of Babylon. Okay, and so Satan's trying to do all these miracles through the false prophet to deceive the people. Now the honest will hear the truth. They'll see the Ten Commandments preached and the light on the fourth commandment, the Sabbath, and they will come out and be sealed. So this is in this period of time during the loud cry, after Ezekiel 9, after purification. Now we have a video we're going to do here in a couple days to prove that Ezekiel 9 takes place before the Sunday law, before the image of the beast system. If you don't know that, you need to know that, because this is present truth. And this is why you're listening to this channel. So there's going to be a church federation. Same source, Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2, page 158, paragraph 1. It says, preliminary to that miracle-working power, Protestantism, Catholicism, and spiritualism will have grasped each other's hand by the means of a church federation. So these are the apostate fallen churches constituting Babylon. The difference of opinion in doctrinal points will be considered of no vital importance to salvation. They will see in that apparently innocent union a great movement for the settlement of differences as well as for the conversion of the world. At the appearance of the false prophet and of Satan himself, their expectations would be realized, and the ushering in of the long-expected millennium time of peace shall be proclaimed to be at hand. Now, of course, their idea of the millennium is a millennial reign on earth. We know Seventh-day Adventists, the earth is desolate without form and void during the millennium, and the saints of heaven will be taken up in heaven for that period of time. So this is why we need to study our Bibles and know what's coming. So this threefold union of Protestantism, Catholicism, and spiritualism will lead to a church federation of these fallen churches constituting Babylon. The Seventh-day Adventist Church will no longer exist. It's already been purified, and you'll have the 144,000. They're untouchable. If you don't know this, this is why you need to study more. There will be a supernatural power attending this. And this is in a publication, track number 12. This is Shepherd's Rod publication, page 26. It says, the power that is represented by this two-horned beast will identify itself with the false prophet. For together they are cast alive into the lake of fire. We have recovered that, Revelation 19, verse 20. From this it is plain to see that the wonders which the beast does in the sight of men, and by which he deceives them that dwell on the earth, Revelation 13, verses 13 and 14, are wrought by the false prophet, Revelation 19, verse 20, in the sight of the beast, Revelation 13, verse 14. Clearly, then, the beast's civil authority, combined with the prophet's supernatural power, points to a union of beast and prophet, an affiliation of state and church representatives, leading to a church-state confederacy. Okay? So ultimately, who's the woman Paula White? Well, I'm going to play a couple brief video clips from a YouTube video that asks that question, and you'll be shocked. This woman, to be polite, is completely mad. She's a tongue-speaking Pentecostal and makes some blasphemous claims. So I'm going to show you here a couple short clips, about 10 seconds and then about 45 seconds. That's about all we can endure, how outrageous this woman is. But just think about this influence on the President of the United States. So we'll be back in just a second.
That's Paula White, a televangelist turned official member of the Trump administration.
Wherever I go, God rules. When I walk on White House grounds, God walks on White House grounds. When I walked in the river, God walked in the river. When I go into the dry cleaner, that dry cleaning place becomes holy. I had every right and authority to.
So the two-horned beast arises, and we know this is Adventist. In Revelation 13:11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, which had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And of course the two horns, and this is fundamental Adventist doctrine, you can find it in the Great Controversy, represents republicanism, that is, one nation under God without a king, and Protestantism, one church under God without a pope. That was the founding principles of this lamb-like beast that rose up from the earth, the unpopulated area of the United States, back in the late 1700s. So which nation is the two-horned beast? Now, as Adventists, we understand this. This is Great Controversy, page 441, paragraph 1. It says, "And he that had two horns like a lamb, the lamb-like horns indicate youth, innocence, and gentleness, fitly representing the character of the United States when presented to the prophet as coming up in 1798. So this is absolute confirmation. Like I say, the Adventist position on eschatology is correct, but it's incomplete. Ellen White wasn't shown everything, so we're filling in the pieces of the puzzle here as we move forward. So we zoomed in on that large visual prophetic study chart to show here, of course, the little horn head, the papacy, rise of the papacy, and that the two-horned beast, United States, would form an image to the beast, a church, reuniting church and state confederation. And here's a expanded view of that. And so as the United States does this, it leads to a church federation. So this woman, Mystery Babylon, in Revelation 17, verse 9, sits on those seven heads, okay, representing the fallen apostate churches constituting Babylon. And then ultimately she'll sit on the scarlet-colored beast of Revelation 17, and that's a future coming federation of church and state. That's the image of the beast system, and that's when the National Sunday Law will be ushered in. And we're also told in Inspiration, Testimonies, Volume 5, page 451, that the United States Constitution will be repudiated. So this idea that Trump is going to restore the golden age of the United States, to be honest, it's a pipe dream. Things have gone so far, so most Protestants don't understand that. But through the lens of Inspiration, we're told this: by the decree enforcing the institution of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. When Protestantism shall stretch forth her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp hands with spiritualism, when, under the influence of this threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its Constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and that the end is near. So this is at the time during the loud cry when the false prophet will rise up with these miracles, joining with the two-horned beast to try to deceive the whole world and passing laws, religious in nature, political in procedure, and this will lead to the image of the beast, or what we know as the National Sunday Laws. So what about the man 666? This is one that is a wind of doctrine or controversy in the Adventist Church, because Adventist Church don't realize that their current teaching, most Adventists will argue that the man 666 represents the papacy. And this has not one shred of biblical evidence. It's not scriptural. You're going, well, how? There's large books and they're all defending it. But the root cause of this is they get it from Uriah Smith, Daniel, and Revelation, who brought it in from a woman named Annie Bullard, who got it from some man named Helwig. All right, so this is not what Ellen White taught, not what the pioneers taught. So this is a wind of doctrine that came into the church through Uriah Smith. How do you know that? Well, we have a very detailed video with full forensic evidence to prove this. Check a link in the description box below. This is a video we published almost 12 years ago, but it has all the proof. And we're going to go back and see what Ellen White actually said about the man 666. You'll be shocked. This is something that's been forgotten. So here's the scripture. Revelation 13, verse 17 and 18 says, that no man may buy or sell, save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Verse 18, here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it's the number of a man, and his number is 666. So if we cannot properly identify the man 666, we're going to miss the boat in terms of understanding the role in final end-time events. And this is exactly the case. So this is why we need present truth to get things straightened out. And God has sent that message into the church. It's been here since the 1930s. So do you have ears to hear and eyes to see? To despise not prophesying? Prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. So the man 666, who is he? Now this is Shepherd's Rod, Timely Greetings, Volume 2, number 17, page 6. And if you'd like a copy of this, like I say at the end, we'll put the information. We'll send you print copies or electronic versions of all of this source material. It says here, the Bible we see places the number 666 not on the first beast, that is in verses 1 to 10, the leopard-like beast, but on the second, the two-horned beast, for the description of the first beast ends in verse 10, and the description of the two-horned beast begins in verse 11 and ends with verse 18. This is plain Bible layout and logic. An early denominational publication entitled The Word of the Little Flock and issued by the founders of the denomination also rightly places the number 666 on the two-horned beast. See page 19 of The Word of the Little Flock. Have you ever read that publication? There's still a facsimile copy. You can easily get it. It's reprinted. So we're going to go there and read that. What Ellen White said. She said, I saw. So, God showed it to her. This is not some hallucination. God showed her the following. And all that would not receive the mark of the beast and of his image in their foreheads or in their hands could not buy or sell. Revelation 13, verses 15 to 17. So she's talking about the things connected with the two-horned beast. And then she said, I saw that the number, referring to 666, of the image beast was made up. Revelation 13, verse 18. So she puts the 666 on the two-horned beast, the image beast. She doesn't put it on the Pope. Never has. And that it was the beast that changed the Sabbath, and the image beast had followed after and kept the popes and not God's Sabbath. And we all were required to do was give up God's Sabbath and keep the Pope's, and then we should have the mark of the beast and of his image. So yes, the papacy changed the Sabbath, but the Pope is not the man 666. That's based on numerology. And if you don't believe me, check the link in the description box below. I said we have a video, absolute forensic proof, that the teaching that came in through Uriah Smith is not scriptural. And in the same publication, Elder James White, her husband, said the following, and this is remarkable because you'll be amazed what's the connection here. Page 19, it says, actually, this is page 9, it says, Michael's to stand up at the time that the last power in chapter 11 comes to his end. He's commenting on Daniel chapter 11. What's the last power in Daniel 11? The king of the north. And none's to help him. He retreats to his tabernacles. There's none to help him. This power is the last that treads down the true church of God. And as the true church is still trodden down and cast out by all Christendom, it follows that the last oppressive power has not come to his end, and Michael has not stood up. Michael stands up to deliver his people in Daniel 12, verse 1. Here's the key. This last power that treads down the saints is brought to view in Revelation 13, verses 11 to 18. His number is 666. That's a two-horned beast. So the man 666 belongs to the two-horned beast. That's what the pioneers taught. Are you shocked? You should be. We need to get back to a Bible basis. The logic of the Bible is clear. The man 666 is on that second beast, the two-horned beast. It's not on the first one. The papacy in the first beast is just the head that received a deadly wound. It's not the whole beast. That's a whole nother study. So we get to this point of who is the head of the United States, the executive office of the President of the United States. Now, I leave it blank. Currently, today, as of today, this is what, November... I forgot the date, November 11th. That current man that occupies the office is Joe Biden. And that will remain the case until inauguration January 2025. And if all things go as they should or expected, then Donald Trump would become that man. But we don't know if Donald Trump, they might try to assassinate him between now and then. So then who would become the man? So that's why we leave it blank. Or maybe Donald Trump gets inaugurated and gets in office and something happens to him. Well, then his vice president, J.D. Vance, would become president. That's a possibility. We don't know that, but it's a possibility. And J.D. Vance, for people that look in his religious background, is a devout Catholic. I'm just saying. So that's why it's really dangerous to say, oh, this man is going to be the man 666. All we know is that it will be this office. He will occupy this office at the time that the false prophet rises up to do the signs and miracles and they try to deceive the whole world. That hasn't happened yet. At that time, we'll know who it is. By the fruits you'll know them. We'll know them by a scriptural identification. But we haven't got there yet. So that's why it's dangerous to say it's going to be this person or that person. Same with the false prophet. There are candidates for it, but we can't name specifically who it is. That's why we need to study for our lives so that when the time comes, we'll say, this is it, based on it is written. And this statement, apostate Protestantism, plays a big role. So all those people surrounding Trump in his first term, I'm sure some of them will probably still be there this next term. And maybe some new ones. We'll have to watch carefully. But the role of apostate Protestantism, Great Controversy, page 588, says, through the two great errors, the immortality of soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deception. So here we have the keys to understand what's coming. While the former lays the foundation for spiritualism, not understanding the state of the dead, the latter creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach over the abyss to clasp hands with the Roman power, and under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. It's coming, friends. There's no more golden age in the United States. We're going back to where we were before COVID. This thing is going down. And ultimately, there are going to be a figure that will occupy the false prophet, bring in spiritualism, the civil power of the United States, and backed up by the apostate Protestants, and they will reach and they will join hands with this child of the papacy, Sunday worship, they think, to restore America to its greatness. So you can see the ingredients coming in, and when the time comes, we'll know. So once again, back to this prophetic timeline, there's the false prophet and the two-horned beast determined to deceive the whole world by miracles and laws. And this will come during the harvest period, during the loud cry, when the 144,000 are out preaching, calling people out of Babylon into a purified kingdom church, a great multitude that no man can number. And this will bring about a union of church and state. Revelation 17, the woman mystery Babylon will ride the beast for 1 hour. And so there's a whole lot of details here. This is just a kind of the opening wedge here. So if you're interested in more details on the scarlet-colored beast and more detailed study in the false prophet, we have a video on the false prophet, and we have the reading material. It comes primarily from Shepherd's Rod Volume 2. So let us summarize this one for today. America is the two-horned beast in Bible prophecy. That's irrefutable. We as Adventists know that. America will speak as a dragon by casting away its constitution and exercising a spirit of intolerance and persecution similar to the Dark Ages. That's what it means to make an image to the beast, replicate the church-state rule of the Dark Ages. The image of the beast is a replication of the church-state rule that existed during the period of the Dark Ages. The false prophet is a charismatic religious figurehead, masculine, not a woman, so it probably will not be Paula White, who will practice spiritualism to deceive the people. Okay, unbiblical things, communicating with dead spirits, or uncouth practices that are not scriptural. And then finally, the man 666 is the political leader of the United States when the mark of the beast system comes to an effect. And like we said, we don't know who that will be at that time, but when it comes, we'll know them by their fruit. We'll be able to clearly identify them when they do these signs and miracles, and it's the working of Satan trying to deceive the whole world. But God will have a people, the 144,000 will know what the truth is, and they'll preach during the loud cry with great power and force, and many people will heed the call. And the apostates will turn away from the law of God. God changed the day and all this stuff, and it's all counterfeit. God's commandments stand, and the light on the fourth commandment will be highlighted during that period of time. So here's the source material we had for this presentation: Timely Greetings, Volume 2, Number 17, Track Number 12, and Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2. If you'd like a copy of these, the two on the left are available without price, cost, or obligation. We can get a digital version of any of these in Shepherd's Rod Volume 2 on the appropriate sections. So please contact us, either that email that I'm showing right there in the box, or the number you can call, text, or message us on WhatsApp, and we'll be happy to get this information to you. So we appreciate your time, your attention. I hope we got your attention, because this, friends, is the present truth. You need to hear it. It will answer things that the Adventist theology, like I say, we have been compromised. Winds of Doctrine, and like I say, Uriah Smith's book, we have a whole video on that, how Adventists fall that, like it's like the gospel truth on everything, but Uriah Smith brought in things that corrupted our doctrine, and the one on 666 is well documented, proven, and I keep pointing to that video. Check out the evidence. It's about an hour long, but it will show you all the evidence. So we appreciate your time today, and we pray that God will bless you as you search for truth as for hidden treasure, and to cease from all men whose breath is in their nostrils. Until we meet again, Godspeed.